Sure, I was mute. I never hit the mute button. I only did it because I wasn't set up yet. So there we go. I'm here. We've got about a minute and a half. We go live over on the radio station. And where is my elevator cushion? This is when, because I can't raise my chair anymore. There we go. That's better. How's everybody tonight? Hope you're all well. Thanks for telling me I was mute. I would have noticed it eventually. All right, we got about 50 seconds left and we go live over on the YouTube. We go, well, the YouTube, we're already live, but over on odysseyradio.com. Hey, Randall Flagg. Good to see you. Field Guy. Good to see you. I'm going to need my specs. These ones still work. All right, guys, we're going to go dark. And we'll be back in a few moments. Sit tight.
The Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Hey, folks, welcome to the program. I am your host, Scotty Roberts. This is my show, the Intrepid radio program, right here on odysseyradio.com. If you want to hear this show in its audio format or listen to any of the archives in audio format, just go over to Odyssey, ODYSY radio.com. And of course, if you're over there and you want to watch the video simulcast, come on over to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Scotty Roberts, and join the other Intrepids in the chat room, which is going now. And you can also join by going over to Twitter and watching. My Twitter is, I think it's Mr. Scotty Roberts. And my Facebook is Mr.Scotty.Roberts. And so you can go over there. But the best place to chat is going to be in the YouTube channel. Can't see the chat from Facebook over there, nor the YouTube chat over in Facebook. So there you go. Boom, boom, boom. All the business out of the way. Thanks for being here, everybody. Thanks for coming in. It's Monday, and I hope your weekend was well. My wife, Rainey, was out of town all weekend. She went with her mother and her brother on Friday. They flew to Denver, Colorado, and they went up in the mountains and they did some snow, and not really snowboarding, but sledding, downhill sledding on the mountains. And so nobody got killed, so that was good. And then just today, I think they were panning for gold and looking for rocks in some mountain stream. And Rainey called me from up there. And so I don't think they found any gold, however. So she will be back late tonight. And of course, this weekend while she was gone, the kids and I did lots of fun stuff. My little daughter, 9-year-old Ellery, launched her own business, the Poo Patrol. We talked about that a little bit last week. And she did very well with that. She's getting lots of compliments online for that. Nothing like being 9 years old in the way the world is today, with the way money is, to be able to be 9 and say, I earned $100 in a week. That's pretty good for a third grader. So we're teaching her now how to put half of that away into savings and don't touch it. So that'll be the fun challenge from that point on. But she's going to do that through the summer. I saw a model of this business that had been done where a fellow started just like she did, charging like $10 a lawn. and starting, Flynn, I'm doing the radio. So did you need something in particular? Okay, that's my 14-year-old son, Flynn. Hey, Roy, how you doing? I see you over there in the chat room. So, Eller, I had put this little business together for my older son, Sam, who didn't really want to do it, didn't want to get into it. We made up flyers to distribute in the neighborhood, charge $10 a lawn, do it once a week. That's $40 a month if somebody uses you every week. And then you get to a place where you got too much to handle. You start, farming it out to your friends, I told them. And get your friends to come and tell them, instead of, they don't make $10 a week. The business will make $10 a week. You pay them $5 a yard. And the rest goes to you, the business, for being the owner and the operator and the developer. And so I said, look, and we did the math and we worked out a chart. I said, you do this many lawns, you know what? You could make a few $1,000s over the summer, just dinking around in the neighborhood. And so I told Ellery the same. And she came to me and said, Dad, you know that poo patrol thing? She said, do you think I could do that? I said, sure. Let's get it rolling. So we put up an ad on the local community Facebook page and put it out there. She distributed some flyers. We've been getting some calls, and she's had some nice jobs come in. So nice ones coming up. Except the price isn't what it was when Sam was 10 years ago. The price is a little different. $20 to do a lawn, $30 for a big lawn. And if it's bigger than an average big lawn, we're talking a city lot, then we just say, just talk to us. We'll figure out a good price for you. So she's got one coming up where the woman said, I will pay you $60 a week to come back and do this. And she's got a bigger lawn. It slopes down into a kind of a basin area in her backyard, lots of trees. But this is great for a 9-year-old. And we helped her invest. We invested in her company by buying her tools. We got her a couple of poop scoops. We found the best one that works and bought another one. So she's got them. She's got a bucket. She's got a box of garbage bags. And that's all she needs. In this state, it's against the law to carry that dog poop off the premises. So she puts it in the bag in the bucket, ties up the bag, throws it in their trash receptacle. And that's it. Charge the city $500 a day. Wouldn't that be nice? That's what they'd charge us. So this is a great way. Now, of course, I've been helping her, and I want to be there. I'm not going to send out my third grader a mile from home or 2 miles from home. Some of these were. And so I go with her, and I pick up poop with her. And you know what? It's good use of my time. It teaches my daughter how to do something. And you know what? She has already caught on how to be polite to her customers, how to make eye contact, how to talk with them, be polite, and do a good job. Don't cut corners. She's already getting that. She's a good worker. I'm really proud of her. So that's fun. I did that this weekend with my daughter. And we went to the nature center with the scouts, my daughter and I. The other two older ones aren't in the scouts anymore. They pulled out. Better things to do, when you're a teenager, for some of them. And Rainey went sledding, and she'll be back tonight. And so tomorrow, the kids had today off of school. So I cracked the whip. And I said, clean your rooms. Get your chores done. So this place looks like $1 million when Mom gets back. Does it look like $1 million? No, it looks like about $87. But it'll work. So that's my weekend, and that's what's leading up into tonight's show. I didn't encounter any JINN. I found no genies in a bottle. Damn it. That would be, cleaning rooms are overrated. Yeah. It is, until you can't walk across the floor. I get my feet tangled in clothes on the floor. I say, you guys have too many clothes. That's it. We're going to go through your clothes, and we're going to leave you about 5 outfits for the week, and everything else. No. The weeping and the wailing and the gnashing of teeth. And, of course, we wouldn't do that, but we'll weed through their stuff. It's just too much. There's too much sometimes. You ever think I am too much the product of a materialistic society? Our kids come to us and they're like, Mom and Dad, we need Dad, will you give me this new thing? This new sweatshirt, these new shorts, these new. Just today, my daughter said, 12-year-old, Dad, we're having a dance on Thursday. Can I get a new dress? I need a new. She didn't ask, can I get a new dress? She said, I need a new dress for Thursday. She never wears dresses. None of them do. So I throw my clothes on the chair, says Field Guy. Yeah, you wouldn't if you were one of my kids, bucko. I'd say, hey, that chair in your room, I got you hangers for a reason. Hang those things up. Sloth. Field sloth, I'd call you. So, yeah, you live alone, though. Well, basically, you're a single guy. You can throw clothes on a chair. I throw clothes on the chair in my bedroom. But you know what? After a day or two, I hang them up. Or I put them away, or I throw them in the wash bin. I wash my own clothes. I don't want my clothes mixed in with the general population of this house. I'd never see things again. That's where we got into you remember the whole pinning the toes of your socks together? Why do we do that? So we don't lose our socks. I've spent more mornings watching my grieving, wailing children looking for a matched pair of socks. So I said, you know what, guys? Pin your toes together. I bought them color-coded safety pins. Flynn's are the red ones. Ellie's the blue. Rowan's the yellow. Mine's just plain silver. And I said, you do that, you know what? You won't lose your socks. And so I wash all my clothes. I have my laundry day. I separate them out. Sometimes I'll throw some of Rainy's stuff in, but if she's got stuff ready to go. But I wash my stuff and it's done. I go hang it up. It's out of the way. And I'm not persnickety and I'm not OCD. But man, I get fed up with messes. I really do. That's too much about me. Let's move on. Hey, Sarah, good to see you. Eye surgery went great. As you can see, Shazam! We talked about it the other day, but maybe on Sunday or Friday. It was last Thursday. And so they put the new lens in. And I can see better. My glasses are now obsolete. These are good. These are my readers. They're bifocal readers, but these still work well. The bifocal part works really crystal clear on the computer. The top is okay. And so those I still use. My other glasses, I can throw them out because they're all fuzzy on this eye now. Now, the next eye is on the 14th. So by the end of this month, end of the month of March, knock on wood, I should be seeing crystal clear. This eye is almost crystal clear. So, and they say the colors are bolder. Well, I've always seen colors pretty well. I'm an artist. I notice colors. But I do notice if I change from eye to eye, little yellower and greener on this side and a little bolder and brighter on this side. That's something I've noticed with the surgery. So there you go. So it went well, Sarah. It went very well. I just have to put drops in until they run out, probably 2 weeks. And we'll get the other eye done, and bing, bang, boom, we'll be ready to roll. So and then maybe I can see JINN better. How's that a segue? Segue into the JINN. We've been talking about the JINN. Not that we haven't talked about JINN on this show before, but we've only done a few episodes on them in the past. But I wanted to dig in with this little series and go a little deeper, try to find out the history of where they came from, of where they became known in our mythology. Are they real is the big question. And tonight, I'm still in that first section on the origins, and I didn't want to just continue to call it origins. Scotch will be next. OCD people have a nervous breakdown in my room. Scotch will be next. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Field Guy. What you talking about, Field Guy? So this series on the jinn, I wanted to dig a little deeper. I wanted to get into a little bit more about them, about the history of them, where they came from, why they're here. We kind of ended up, we were talking about all different kinds of things, talking about the wind demons, talking about the Bedouin and how they saw the jinn. And the ancient Babylonians is where I wanted to look now. They succeeded the Sumerians in Mesopotamia, and they were a Semitic people, and they were believed to have originated in Arabia, and they were great practitioners of magic. As a matter of fact, if you look at the biblical Christmas story, they talk about how the Magi, the three kings from Orient, are. They came from Babylon, they think, the magicians and the Magi of Babylon. And they were very steeped in the magics, and their lore was replete with grotesque, frightening demons that could be summoned by sorcery or driven off by talismans. And many of these demons were primordial jinn, according to the legends of Babylon. Scottish folklorist Lewis Spence says Babylonian demons were legion. And we did cover this the other night, because I do remember reading this quote from him. Babylonian demons were legion, most of them exceedingly malevolent. And a good example was the Utuku. You remember that? The Utuku. Utukku. Utuku. It's an evil spirit that normally lurked in the desert, where it lay in wait for unsuspecting travelers. But this particular demon did not limit itself to remote wastelands. The Utuku haunted graveyards, a common abode for the jinn, and sometimes made its home in the mountains and even in the sea. And any man who spied an Utuku was certain to face a grim fate. Now, that all sounds like so much mythology as well. So the Babylonians feared another lurking demon called the Rubisu, which hid in unfrequented spots. It leapt out on passers-by. The modus operandi, as I'm going to get into a little bit later with this, of the Subiru, their modus operandi was a fairly specialized jinn called the ghoul, the Ghul, where we get our word ghouls from. Ghoulish, goulash at Lutheran, what do they call those? The meals, potlucks. I saw Niall said something over here. I want to see what you had to say. You said in Islamic culture, that's just a little smaller type than my notes. In Islamic culture, there's more to be learned about the jinn. They are or were the first human creation of Allah, the great Redeemer. He found them too aggressive, so created us afterwards. Yes, we're going to get into Islam. We may make it up to Islam tonight yet, if I get through the Babylonian stuff. But we're going to talk about that, as a matter of fact. Now, I do have a question on that, though. If Allah was and Sarah, you can pitch in on this because you know more about Islam than I do. If Allah was an invention of Muhammad, meaning he took all the cast of gods that were multiple and, in a sense, demoted them all and created the one true God out of one of their gods. Was it Hamad, if I have the name right? And he renamed him Allah. But he was just one of the cast of gods. Gods, devils, demons, angelic types of beings, all of those. And so if you have Allah, you said they were one of the first human creation of Allah, the great Redeemer. Somebody who knows more about Islam, tell me, was Allah considered to be the creator if he was not even conceived of until the 7th century? So there's a question for you. I'm throwing it out there. So let's get back. Let's look at Babylon a little bit more. There was yet another early jinn was the Labartu. Labartu. It's a Lilith-like figure. She was said to be the daughter of the ancient sky deity Anu, which is, of course, the ancient sky deity, the Anunnaki, and the children of the Anu. And so she was believed to be in craggy mountains or in dismal swamps and was particularly addicted to destroying children. Oh, by the way, the sky deity of the Anu, you know how you have the Anunnaki and the children of the Anu and the children of Danu. You have the Tuatha de Danann or Danu in the Irish mythology. The the tall, elegant, bright, shining princes of heaven that descended down, which later became, they receded into the hollow hills and became known as the elven folk, the Anu, the Danu, the Tuatha de Anu. And so it's there's a whole interesting thing I wrote up on that once. We'll go into that sometime. So Babylonian mothers, by the way, would shield their children from the horrors of this demon. This is the Labartu, by placing protective talismans on cords or chains around their youngsters' necks. And that's how they protected them. In Islam, says Niall, there is only one prophet and Allah. In his name, it's the same as Christ in Christian terms. Well, what I'm thinking is, wasn't it Muhammad, the prophet, who later became known as the prophet, if I've got that right? Did he not have? He had two mentors, as I understood it. One was Christian, one was Jewish, and these guys and Muhammad was very concerned about uniting the Arabic tribes, which were all over the place. And they said, I could hear his Jewish friend saying, You wanna unite the Arab tribes? Go monotheistic. And so he devised, like Moses did, I believe, with Judaism. They conceived religions. Two of the major Abrahamic religions were conceived out of whole cloth. Now, Sarah says not true. Which part? We'll talk about that, and maybe we'll hit that up in the captain's cabin. So unless you want to type some things in here, and I'll add them into the show as we're talking. So this is what I have read in several different places. I couldn't cite my sources for you now because I wrote that in a book, 12 years ago when I did all my research on that. But I researched that in a couple of different places solidly, and then a couple of places that supported it, that Muhammad took the 92 different deities of the Arabics, and Allah was not one of them, and he pulled one of them, kind of the chief god of them, and elevated him up and renamed him Allah. You say the word Allah was derived from Allah, the early Semitic derivation from El. Well, that makes sense. It does. But was that a word that did Muhammad craft the word? Were they using the word Allah from El prior to Allah actually being a deity? Because from the things I studied, and I can look back into it, it seemed that Muhammad was the one who created the name Allah, or used the term to describe the chief god when he had not existed as the chief god prior to that point. So that's interesting. We'll talk about that. Let me get back to where I was over here. Another Babylonian demon called the Sedu, Sedu, was possibly a guardian spirit, like the Karin or the Karina, which we shall talk about a little later. But it was also seen as having evil propensities. They were good guardian angels with evil propensities, which means they had free will, obviously. So the Sedu and a similar demon called the Lamasu were often appealed to at the end of written invocations that have survived to this day on clay tablets. And here's a quote: "These malign influences were probably the prototypes of the Arabian jinn, to whom they have many points of resemblance." That was Spence again, the Scottish dude. In northern Mesopotamia, the Assyrians feared a variety of spirits that were described as half human, half supernatural, which is kind of the way the jinn come across. Some of these demons engaged in sexual relations with humans, another jinn characteristic. The offspring of these demon-human unions was said to be a spirit creature called the Alu, sometimes referred to as wind demons like Pazuzu, which haunted desolate ruins and abandoned buildings and would enter houses like a ghost and steal people's sleep. Now, this was the offspring of the jinn. What was the name of this jinn again? It was the Saru, the Qarin, Qarin. Half human, half supernatural. And this would be like what the Nephilim were in biblical text, Old Testament text, that intermingled with human women, and their offspring were, well, it actually wasn't the Nephilim that were the fathers, so to speak. It was the Watchers, or the Elohim, who came down, the B'nai Ha-Elohim. And they had sex with human women, which tells you they weren't angels, because angels supposedly are sexless. So they had sex with human women and bequeathed the Nephilim, according to the texts. Unless, now, you got to dig into the antecedents of words in the original languages and look for context. It does say, after this mingling between the Watchers, or the B'nai Ha-Elohim, and the women, the human women, that it says, and the Nephilim were on the earth in those days. Right after it says that the offspring were the heroes of old and the men of renown. Were they the giants, or were the Nephilim completely separate from these offspring? It's interesting. That's worth looking into. That's part of some of the rewrite I want to do of the rise and fall of the Nephilim, which I just talked to my publisher last week. He wants me to do that, get that done for him. Sarah says ancient cultures were influenced by the philosophy of unity of being, rather than breaking up aspects like you find in polytheism. Okay. Ancient cultures were influenced by the philosophy of unity of being, rather than breaking up aspects like you find in polytheism. You mean breaking up the aspects of the one God? So we'll talk about that. Niall says the jinn are unique to Islam, as it states in the Quran that they were the original race, but they proved to be too aggressive, so humans part 2 were created. That's interesting. We had the angels, the demons, which I think are of the same caste, really, and then you have the jinn, and then you have humans. So it's interesting. And let's move on. Let's keep this rolling. Primordial jinn were sometimes portrayed in reliefs and sculptures by the Babylonian and other artists of Mesopotamia. And a few representations of the Utuku have survived the ravages of time. They show a creature with a powerful human body, large wings, a beast's head, a cross between a bird of prey and a lizard, or a dragon maybe. Other unique representations of the jinn in the Arab East have been found in the oasis city of Palmyra. And we did mention this last week. In what is now Syria, or what's left of Palmyra after ISIS decimated the place. Palmyra, also called Tadmor or Tudmur, was a trade emporium, a crossroads of peoples and cultures in ancient times, and it was first settled by the Amorites and the Armenians, the Aramaeans, and then they were conquered by the Romans in the 1st century, and they were taken by the Arabs in the 7th century, and it endured until the 16th century. Getting closer and closer to our times. Because of its location in the principal east-west caravan route, Palmyra's culture and society were influenced by the Phoenicians, the Hebrews, the Babylonians, the Persians, and the Greeks. And its cultural tapestry was rich, it was diverse. And when the Romans seized the city, Palmyra's main temple, said to have been built by King Solomon of the Israelites, had already stood for 2,000 years. And so impressive ruins, including temples to Semitic deities such as Baal of the Canaanites, Nabu of Babylon, and the goddess Alat of Arabia. And they survive to this day. At least I think they do now. Remember a few years ago, 6, 7, 8 years ago, ISIS pretty much destroyed the ruins of Palmyra. So, don't know what's left of that anymore. They were smashing statues and shattering reliefs carved into stone. But Palmyra is perhaps most famous for Zenobia, the beautiful and brilliant 3rd century Syrian queen who led a revolt against Rome and created a breakaway Palmyrene empire in Egypt and the Levant. The Levant being that area between Egypt, the Sinai and Egypt, and up into what is now Israel. And kind of that southeastern corner of the Mediterranean Sea down there, the desert. And she ruled this short-lived realm for about 5 years, until she was defeated, taken to Rome in golden chains by the soldier emperor Aurelian in 274. And Zenobia's claim of descent from Dido of Carthage and Greek Queen Cleopatra VII of Egypt demonstrates the cultural and social complexity of Palmyra and its people. And Palmyra's Arabian jinn gods are often called Jinnai. G-N-Y or J-N-Y, pronounced Jinnai, or Jinnaya, and in the plural, the Jinnaye. And in Aramaic terms, that some Western scholars have tried to link with the Roman origin of genie, with 2 I's at the end, G-E-N-I-I. That's a singular genius, tutelary or a household deity. And so the Jinnaye of Palmyra are indeed similar in function to the Latin genie, or Jinnai. And the resemblance was probably encouraged during the period of the Roman occupation. And Roman Jinnai protected individuals, families, and places. Even as late as the European Renaissance, the Latin term genius had not taken on its modern meaning, like an Einstein, of a person endowed with great intellect and creativity. And in Leonardo da Vinci's time, extraordinary accomplishments of artists or scientists were attributed to their genius or their attendant spirit. Isn't that interesting? That's the etymology of that word. That somebody's intellect, his art, his craft, his creativity, his science were all attributed to their genius, their attendant spirit. And the Palmyrene jinn were protective and supportive as well. But they were indigenous, they were ancient, dating back millennia. And like the jinn of today's Bedouins, the Palmyra's Jinnaya, were said to resemble human beings in appearance and behavior. And the artists of Palmyra portrayed them in the specific roles that the deities played in the Palmyrene society. For example, A surviving stele shows images in relief of Asher and Sod, two well-known Palmyrene. I have a problem saying Palmyrene. I can say Palmyra, Palmyrene. Okay, they're two well-known Palmyrene genea. They're dressed in Roman-style togas. Asher is shown mounted on horseback with a quiver of arrows attached to his saddle, and Saad, S-A-A-D, is standing beside his horse. It's funny. I have remember I had my friend Saad, Mohammed Saad, and I'm sorry, Momin Saad, who came on the show once and was listening about a year ago. Spelled the same way, S-A-A-D. And he's Egyptian. And Saad is standing beside the horse, holding a round shield. And these Genii were tasked with taking care of protecting human lives and enterprises, hence the weapons. And thus the people of Palmyra gave them the appellation SBB, or close. I don't know how to say that. Sib, or close, it means, revealing their position as guardians to their human charges. I want to take a look at what you're all saying over here. I've seen a few things roll by. Instead of having a god of war or of love, they all come from the same source. Gotcha on that, sir. I remember that's I wasn't quite sure what you were saying earlier. And what does Niall says? He says, whereas angels were already of heaven, but the jinn were a creation, a physical creation, which was rejected and enslaved. It says that the jinn were created from smokeless fire, hence the fire demons, or the fire gods. And let's see. He goes on. He says, scholars of Islam claim that jinn are jealous of humankind because of their rejection by the creator, or the Mahdi. Now, it's interesting. If you remember, a year ago, we did the interview, or we did a few shows on the man, I think it was a Weisenberg, now the late, who had done written about his interview with a jinn. And according to him, it was a true story. Wasn't a fictional tale. And that he had encountered a jinn and was able to speak with it, was able to, yes, Moman. M-A-O-M-M-O-A, Moaman. M-O-A-M-A-N, I think is the way he spells it. I think. But Weisenthal, Weisenberg, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He talked about having this conversation with the jinn, and he asked the jinn about God. Who is God? And who is the creator? And they said, oh, God and the creator are two different beings. The creator is not God. He says, we call the creator, he says, the jinn said, we refer to him as the originator. Now, I don't know if that was Mahdi. I don't remember if there was a name that he gave. But that's different than the God like Elohim or Jehovah or Allah. They say the creator was the originator. Very different. That's what this jinn told him. And of course, if this is indeed a true story, do we know if the jinn was honest with him, was truthful with him? And I only ask that because I don't know. I don't know any jinn. I don't know what they're really like. I do believe I've encountered jinn, but I couldn't tell you much else. And I was told to be very, very careful. To be careful what you wish for, kind of thing, you know? So, Genii were also regarded as protectors of caravans, of cattle, of desert villages, shrines that were built in their honor. And the ruins of these sanctuaries remain today as isolated reminders of Palmyra's golden era. The Arabs of Palmyra and the surrounding area were mostly Bedouin in origin, and many combined two ways of life: shepherding and farming, much as the Bani Tamim of Saudi Arabia's Jabal Shamar region did until the 19th century. As tribesmen passed from a nomadic lifestyle to a sedentary one, less agrarian, or more agrarian, more homespun, the tutelary jinn gods were always present. They were offering security in times of change. And the Jinnaya protected the Bedouins in their wanderings as they drove camels and sheep and goats from one pasture to another. And they also gave comfort to those raising crops, facing the hazards of drought, storms, and pestilence. And I've got to ask you, and anybody in the know on this, what kind of similarities are there between the Jinn and perhaps the Irish or the Gaelic, the Celtic Fae? Are they considered to be Jinn? I've never seen a connection made, but their behavior is very similar, because the Fae, the fairy folk, the good people, they could be benevolent and notoriously evil at the same time. They could be destroyers and bringers of celebration. And they were protectors of your farms, your animals, your children. If you paid respect and homage to them, maybe left an offering of food for them, that is what was said of them. Just like dem sock gnomes, says Field Guy. Yeah, there it is. Maybe they're cousins. Might be. I don't know that Fae are fire beings, though. I don't know what their creation was. I've got to look back at that. I think I knew it once and it's not coming to mind, so I knew it temporarily. But I got to look into that. So the Jinnah of ancient Palmyra also protected the trading caravans. Camels that were loaded with all kinds of trade goods could fall victim to bandits and other renegades, and the caravans were furnished with escorts through the desert. And this human protection was supplemented by the supernatural presence of Jinnah. And I suppose those that were attacked, killed, stolen from, those caravans probably did not experience the presence of the Jinnah as protectors. So during the Roman occupation of Palmyra, from the 1st to the 4th centuries, the hamlets around the city were not only centers of settled life, but also relay and staging points for the merchant caravans. So in this bustling setting, the cult of tutelary Jinnah proliferated and spread out. And so Palmyra's scholar Javier Teixidor asserts that Jinnah were frequently invoked in pairs by citizens who sought their protection, and that reliefs found in the ruins of the ancient city usually portray each one in characteristic guise. And why they were often venerated in pairs remains a mystery, but the personalities of these spirits, these spirit beings, were rather clearly delineated. For example, one of the prominent jinn deities of Palmyra is Abgal, often portrayed as a youth with long hair and a mustache, wearing local dress and grasping a lance. Abgal sometimes stands alone, but he's often shown with other gods, whose cults flourished in the desert among the Arab nomads, and including Azizos, Ma'an, Ashur, Salman, gods of the plain like himself. And a well-known pairing is Ma'an, I said, like Baal, the M-A-A-N, Man, and Saad, S-A-A-D, Ma'an and Saad, in an altar inscription at Ras Esher in Syria, dating to August of 194 AD. I think it's so cool when you can find these old inscriptions and they've got a date on them, and the date brings it right back to our calendar. So 194 AD. Ma'an is described as a good and bountiful god. He carries a lance, he rides a horse. Sahad, his associate deity, rides a camel. Ma'an's feast day was celebrated in Palmyra every August 16th. Beef dishes were prepared for the occasion. You know, a book comes to mind. The idea for a book, for a kid's book or a graphic novel or a comic book series, the I don't know, the adventures of Ma'an and Saad riding their horse and camel, protecting caravans through the desert. It would be very interesting because they were part human, part spirit. Be an interesting story, huh? Eh? So interesting story, eh? So Asher, whom we've seen earlier in the company of Saad, is also sometimes teamed with Abdgal. And in such cases, Asher appears as a horseman in Arab dress, hefting a lance and a shield, and Asher and Saad are portrayed at the Dura Europos with identical Parthian hairstyles, huge puffs of curls on each side of the face, and bushy mustaches and identical local garments. They almost sound Scottish, early Celt. The Gaels. So Shilman and Shilmut are male and female, respectively. Some scholars maintain that they're siblings and identify them with the Assyrian deities Shulman and Shulmanitu. So Shulman, called good and bountiful, like Ma'an, is invoked with Abgal on the altar of Ras Eshar. And the jinn god Shai al-Qam is a protector of caravans. His Arabic name means protector of the people, or the one who accompanies the people, suggesting that his cult was particularly favored by nomadic tribes. And there are parallels between this god, the angel of Yahweh, in Exodus 23:20, where it says, "Look, I am sending you an angel to precede you, to guard you as you go and bring you to the place that I have prepared." Does that not sound like the guardian jinn that we've just been talking about? Again, Yahweh says, "I am sending you an angel to precede you, to guard you as you go and bring you to the place that I have prepared." That's to me, an astounding connection. Now, the Hebrews of antiquity, from the kingdoms of David, Solomon, and their successors in Palestine, in the Babylonian captivity, their successors, it wouldn't have been Palestine. Palestine didn't rise up until the Roman era. So they would be their successors in the land of Israel. And maybe they're talking about their successors once the region was totally destroyed by Rome and renamed Palestine as an insult to the Israelites who once lived there. So maybe that's what they're referring to. Well, it says their successors in Palestine to the Babylonian captivity, to the Roman conquest. It would not have been Palestine in that period. Wouldn't have been known as that anyway. But in that region, from the Babylonian captivity to the Roman conquest in 70 AD, were for long familiar with jinn and the lore associated with them. And according to Talmudic tradition, after Adam and Eve were driven from the Garden of Eden, Adam was separated from Eve for 130 years. And during this time, female spirits had intercourse with Adam. Do you know this? Have you heard this? This is Talmud. This is Jewish tradition. So during this time, female spirits had intercourse with Adam, Male spirits had intercourse with Eve. And from those unions, the Mazakin were born. The Mazakin. Who the hell are the Mazakin? You may well ask. And some Talmudic scholars have called them ghouls and demons. Others have characterized them as fairies. There you go. There's your connection to the Fae. Someone reminiscent of the European Celtic variety. Winged creatures that could fly and practice magic. That's more Victorian, by the way. Victorian explorer translator Sir Richard F. Burton believed the Mazakin were equivalent to the jinn. And they were able to foretell all future and could shapeshift. And like humans, they enjoyed feasting and drinking, and they married and had children. The Mazakin. That was the name of the character on the Lucifer TV series. Which character? What was his role? So that's interesting. Niall says there's a close connection to Solomon. The jinn were enslaved to build the temple, so who they see as God and creator will be naturally confused. They were slaves, albeit very powerful. Yes. And that is a Masonic tradition, that belief. There's something about the power of the one, power of the ring. Tolkien wasn't far off with the mythology he created. The one ring to rule them all, and that Solomon possessed this ring, which gave him the power over, they would say, the demons, but this could very well have been the jinn by other traditions. So jinn have no love of humankind because they were the original but rejected. They exist now in another space in physicality, but have no love for us and can appear as apparitions. And I think, Niall, that this is why you have different kinds of jinn that interact differently with humans. Because while overall there may be a hatred of the human race because the human race replaced them, there's going to be jinn that are born that go, well, that wasn't these humans that did that. They weren't responsible for it. It was God that did that. The creator or the originator, however they say it. So I think you could have a mix of attitudes toward, because the jinn are not bound to believe a certain thing. They are not bound to act within a certain way, saying they can only act within these limits. But I think that there might be an overall, Klingon human interaction there. And the enlightened ones maybe are the ones that interact well with the humans. It's interesting, huh? She was like Satan's enforcer, a.k.a. his bounty hunter. Oh, that was, what was the name we just gave? The Mazakin. So belief in jinn continued unabated in the Arab East through Roman and Byzantine times, all the way to the coming of Islam in the 7th century, when these spirit beings were integrated into the new faith through Quranic revelation and the personal experiences of the prophet. And two streams of knowledge were at work here. One was the folk interpretation of the jinn, which we've seen is largely Mesopotamian in origin. It developed in cities, towns, villages, with an eye toward the desert, and incorporating age-old regional beliefs about the nature's spirits, demons, and divinities. The other stream was channeled by Greek and Roman philosophers and proto-scientists, and focused on the role of demons in Greek daimones as intermediaries between men and gods. Belief in demons was widespread in the Greco-Roman world and may have originated in Mesopotamia but underwent considerable evolution and refinement at the hands of such thinkers as Socrates and Plato, Aristotle, Plutarch, Porphyry, and Augustine. And the demons of the pre-Christian era were natural spirits inhabiting high places, as God called them in the Old Testament, the prophets in the Old Testament, and the upper air. Neither good nor evil in their essence, but often protective and inspirational and conveyors of knowledge and talent. And it's interesting that God warns us about this power, the spirit of the power of the air. Gives warnings about them. Socrates believed that inspiration for his philosophical abilities came from a personal demon, Diotima of Mantinia. A female philosopher and tutor of Socrates says in Plato's Symposium, everything demonic is intermediate between God and mortal. God has no contact with man. Only through the demonic is there intercourse and conversation between man and the gods, whether in the waking state or during sleep. And Aristotle thought demons were responsible for human dreams. Plutarch and Porphyry speculated that since demons inhabited the upper air, they may have come from the moon. And you know what? You got to kind of stop there for the radio audience. The moon, think about it. It's not just made of cheese, it's inhabited by jinn. The ones that bring you bad dreams. And so, well, there, look, I kept the graphic up all night. How about that? Because I forgot about it. So we're going to get out of here for the radio audience. Everybody else, sit tight. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Live long and prosper.
The Intrepid Radio Program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent Talk.
Hey folks, this is Scotty Roberts, and this is the Intrepid Radio broadcast. I've been broadcasting for about 20 years now, covering such topics as science, politics, the paranormal, weird science, weird world history, archaeology, and the paranormal. Everything from ghosts to cryptids to creepy things that go bump in the night. So every week I bring you 3 new episodes. Come and join my channel and also be a patron to this site. So see the details below, and we'll see you here. Dave, I love you, brother.
I miss you too.
I miss you too, I heard.
Yep.
Did you guys hear that?
I heard that.
I miss you, Dave. Well, welcome to the Captain's Cabin, everybody. This is going to be a very short Captain's Cabin. I should have mentioned that earlier because my wife is out of town and will not be back till probably after 1 a.m. this morning. It is up to me to make sure my children are all tucked into their beds with visions of sugar plum dancing in their heads. And so I've got to go make sure they're in bed and not screwing around up there because I hear movement. So, hey, Robert Pitts, that's Terry Pitts, for those of you who come to KB's show. And in the morning coffee with KB. And Terry's got his own show. And Terry, forgive me, I don't know what it's called. You can call in and talk to me for a minute if you want. And we'll put you on. Let me hear. Anybody who wants to. We've only got a couple of minutes because I got to cut this short today to do some fatherly duties because my wife is not here to do the motherly duties. So that's going to be just me tonight. Hey, Sarah, how you doing?
Hey, Scotty.
How's it going?
I was ready for today.
All right. And I can't stick around very long tonight, as you probably just heard.
Yeah.
So just a few minutes, really, because I got to go take care of kids.
Yeah.
But one of them might even be asleep because I don't hear any screaming. So that's a good sign.
It's a possibility.
And,
it's kind of like Schrodinger's cat.
Yes. And ain't that the truth? So I had to work on something all day, and I told the kids, hey, Mom's coming back tonight. Why don't we surprise her and have the house look nice? And so I told them from the time they were up and around, I started at 10 o'clock this morning. Here's what needs to be done, this, and this. Do you think by 8:45 they had any of that finished yet? No. Despite my getting on them all day long. And I go, look, I got to go downstairs and work or I'd be doing this. I got a deadline to meet. And so I don't know how far they've got. I finally went up and did some of it myself. Okay. The two daughters, the 9-year-old and the 12-year-old, decided they were going to switch bedrooms. I told them no. Only because they've done this before a couple of times, and it's always a disaster and remains a disaster for a week or two afterwards. The hallway to the bedrooms is constantly full of junk. It's like, come on, guys, clean up your stuff. Mom and Dad don't have time to do this, but we have to make it because they just don't get it done. So Rainey was not happy when she learned that they changed bedrooms while she was out of town. And she also told them no. So they have both parents tell them no. And it's not that I'm detached from my kids. I'm down here working. I could be working down here for a few hours, and all of a sudden, I go upstairs and everything's in upheaval. So anyway, that was my earlier evening. Here's Terry Pitts as well. Terry, how you doing?
Hey, Scotty, getting ready to hit the sack tonight.
Yeah, I'm going to do that soon myself, but I got to take care of my kids and get them all in bed first. Make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So,
Okay.
So what's your show exactly? Sarah, I need to...
Well,
hear from you too. I just wanted to I asked Terry to come in and talk about his show for a minute.
The reason why I was stuck on that show because Ken made me make my own show for the day. So
Oh, gotcha.
that's why I was doing the show. I didn't have a show, but
I am now reminded of that.
Yeah.
So,
I think Wendy and KB and a couple others. You need to do the show for one day. So I said, okay.
Yeah. And you did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good job. So, well, good. I'm glad to see you here. It's nice to have you here. So,
yeah, it's
and
nice.
Of course, this is the after show, the Captain's Cabin. Usually runs for about an hour, sometimes 2, right, Sarah? But
don't blame me.
But tonight I got to blast off out of here kind of early, so it's going to be very abbreviated Captain's Cabin tonight. But it's good to see you, Terry. Miss talking.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to come on here more often. So.
Please do. You got to stay up late to do it, but
yeah.
All right. So.
Yeah, usually I go to bed around 11:30, and I probably stay up to about 1. So I just can't go to sleep, right?
Yeah, we start this show. It starts at 9, which would be 10 your time out east, and then the Captain's Cabin starts at 11 your time. So
yeah,
about what it is now. So
yeah, I popped on there a little late, and I said, "Is he still on?" And I saw your intro, and I saw the little tidbit on when y'all were trying to talk to Dave on the little machine.
Oh yes, yeah. That's you got to listen to that and slow that one down a little bit, or not slow it down. I mean, raise the volume a little bit, and you can hear him right in there. It's his voice, and he says, "I miss you. I miss you too." He said, and Rainey heard it too.
Yeah. Where were y'all at when that happened?
That was at the Renaissance Festival grounds. In October, it was off season, and it was late night. And so I kind of called out to him and asked, "Hey, Dave, if you're around, why don't you come and say hi?" And then he did. I think it was his voice. I don't even think I know what it was. I use guarded language because people are like, "Well, you don't really know that was Dave." Well, no, I don't really know it was Dave, but what I know what I heard. I know I heard Dave's voice.
Yeah.
So, Sarah, how do you explain that? That's not necessarily on the JINN topic, and I know you prepared some stuff. I'm just going to make you save it for next time because we're not going to be on here very long. But what do you think of that? If it sounds like Dave, and I'm fairly pragmatic guy. I have my beliefs about things, but you got to show me. You got to prove to me that you're who you say you are. But when it sounds like him, Sam, right around the same time, got Dave speaking to him through a spirit box, saying, Sam kind of called out to him, and Dave said, I'm here, bud," or "I'm here, Sam." And Sam said he started to cry, and the voice through the box said, "Don't cry, bud. I'm okay." Just like that. So clearly Dave. But what do you think of that stuff, Sarah and Terry?
Well, I mean, there's 2 aspects of it. One is, you think of what sound is, which is, frequency of energy and vibration, which can be mimicked. If you look at it from a emotional perspective, you said, okay, that's Dave, because that's what the association that you make in your brain, because that's the sound that you've heard, all your life. It's, oh, that's Dave, it's. I mean, there's different ways to look at it. I mean, some, depending on your belief system, again, it all relies on a type of faith, having a type of faith that you believe it's Dave, right? What do you believe in? You believe it's him.
Sure.
I mean, there are some who believe that, much like when we were talking about earlier about the JINN, there is variation in personality, just as there is with humans. So, I mean, there's good JINN, there's bad JINN, there's good people and bad people. So, and then that's all sort of expanded out in the beginning in Genesis, because there's a time, God was, creating this, that, and the other, and he goes to each one and says, do you want to be good? Do you want to be evil? And then, it was sort of like factionized. He said, do you want to follow what are you going to do what I'm going to say, or you're not going to do what I'm going to say?
Right.
Is that sort of thing. There was an interesting passage, which I'll send to you, but I mean, we'll discuss it, I guess, next time, because it'll get a little bit involved. I don't want to take too much time. That discusses that even the messages that are given by the jinn to humanity, if God says, okay, this jinn person, go tell this human to do something or not do something, or have an influence in her life, there is a passage that states that there's an angel before him and in front of him to make sure that he sends the message out.
Oh,
which angels, they have no free will.
Yeah, they
Whereas
kind of
jinn,
kick ass for God. The ass kickers.
yeah, and jinn, the way the Quran is worded in certain verses and stuff. I mean, there's also the surah just for jinn, but and all that. But as far as the jinn having that essence of free will, the same as humanity have, there's also the ability for conversion back into the faith. That's essentially what Islamic exorcism is, and I've watched a few.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so it's like getting the entity or spirit to recite, the Fatha, the throne verse, the reaffirmation of what God is. So it's sort of being re-indoctrinated back into the faith. Rather, in the Catholic system, it's more about expulsion. Which
right.
Depending on the situation, how serious the situation is. So
this is fascinating stuff. I wish we had more time to dig into this a little bit.
Yeah.
So, Terry, what are your thoughts? Any thoughts on this?
Well, I've been doing paranormal investigation, I guess, since 1996. So, and I've heard people I've even heard my mother. Kind of, you can hear them when you're in the house sometimes. You hear them say something, but then again, you look and nobody's there.
Right.
And I've heard of the spirit box, and I used to have one. I put it in the house somewhere, and where it's at, I don't know. It just disappeared for some reason. But I've never studied.
Disappeared.
Yeah, it did. I mean, I had one. I came back from investigation, and I put it somewhere, and all of a sudden, I don't know where I put it. But I never studied the jinn that much. That'd be real interesting to hear the.
They're an interesting topic, well,
it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting in that you have different other paranormal creatures in different areas of the world who have the same sort of function. So they're just called by a different name, so and also it'll depend on the worldview. In Irish you have the Fae, in South America or in the Philippines you have Tianak, you have all sorts of different creature names that are supposed to be sort of trying to explain everything all at once,
right.
So you're just trying to make an interpretation of perception of your understanding the world around you.
And maybe they're all one and the same with different names. Maybe they're all variations. That's what we don't know. And this to me makes it interesting. I want to, the jinn, when I say that I've been interested in them and that I have said out loud, I would love to have an encounter with the jinn, a positive encounter. Thank you very much. Not a negative one, but they're that part human and part spirit, which makes it very interesting.
And they have personality and attitudes. They can get pissed off.
And free will. I'd love to encounter one, to converse with one, to not, converse with me or I'll eat your soul type of thing. I just want a normal conversation with what would be a supernormal being. And I've had those that say to me, very good friends, my friend who's the shaman, who said, you don't want to wish that. Be very careful with that. So I'm careful.
Well, I mean, it's creating an opening, and you don't know what
It
you're
is.
opening yourself up to. But I
And
mean,
I
that's
don't
like
want to
the
open
holy
myself to
grail of
anything I
paranormal
shouldn't.
evidence, right? To be able to sit down with
Right.
a ghost and say, how are you doing? What's it like on the other side?
Right.
You know, we tried to. Isn't that something what Houdini tried to do? You know, after his
Yeah.
death, the whole thing with his wife. So I mean,
Yeah.
I'm trying to see. Can you let me know how it is over there? Is it warm? Is it particularly warm over there?
All right. Hey, thanks, Niall, for not popping on, because we're going to pop off here pretty quick, because I have to. I'm sorry, I have obligation and I have to. But let's maybe on Wednesday, we can shoot for having a little longer normal captain's cabin and talk about some of this stuff. Everybody's going to be here. Terry, you were going to say?
Okay. Well, I was going to say I had a friend who was talking to a psychic one time, and she, was for her, I guess, the guy that she was wanted to find out about was her husband who passed away. And the psychic told her, yeah, he looked, and he was like 30 years younger, like he was around 30 years old. When he went to the other side. So.
I suppose you'd hate to die in your late 90s and be perpetually late 90s for all eternity.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But
I haven't been there, so I don't know for sure. So Well, listen, I'm gonna pull the plug for tonight. Only because I have to. It's good to have you on here, Terry. Let's make this a habit.
Seeing you.
It's nice meeting you.
Yeah, same here, sir. Nice talking to you.
All right.
All righty.
All right, guys.
We'll get off here.
I'll see you later, Terry. Maybe
all
tomorrow
right, Scotty. Take care. Sarah, take care. Bye-bye.
And Sarah, I got to let you go too. As interesting as this conversation would be, I wish I could stick around and I can't.
Yeah.
So,
and just a quick aside, because I was looking it up while we were talking. The word Allah does predate the Quran. So
okay.
So and then
did Muhammad borrow that name?
It's
that's
a possibility. I mean, it's always a possibility. I can never say, definitely yes, definitely no. But even that particular deity had its own pantheon. As far polytheistic pantheon, which is some would even say that the origins of the Kaaba. It's supposed to be the altar. Allah itself is considered not having an idol, but everybody else. Other god did have its idol, and then eventually, historically, and when the rise of Islam, all those idols were destroyed. He said, "Nope, one." He said, "Nope, just one." But the philosophy of a unity of being, that's a pretty, sort of the concept of a unity of being is common in the philosophical that was being grown at the time. So,
well, again, an ultimately interesting topic, and what Niall is bringing up here at the very end. They have powers we don't have. They're like us, but very much unlike us. So it's interesting. We're going to delve into this more, folks, on Wednesday, and for the next few shows, at least. Sarah, thank you for taking the time to come in here.
Sure,
I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see you next time, Wednesday.
Right,
there will be Robertson tomorrow at 4 p.m., 5 p.m. Eastern. So maybe you can make it. And
probably not. I have work. So.
Oh, that's right, work. Work.
It just gets in the way of all the stuff that you want to do.
Ain't that the truth? All right, Sarah, have a good night.
All right, take care.
Talk to you soon. Everybody else, thanks for being here. Thank you for giving me your time. And Niall, hang on to your thoughts, and we'll hit this again on Wednesday when we come back and talk a little bit more about the JINN. And in the meantime, all of you, I want you to have a good night. We'll see you Wednesday. We'll see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern for Robertson with Wendy Robertson and me. Until then, live long and prosper.